You don't mind helping out, right? Parents demanded after leaving their assets to my brother. I slammed the door in their faces. Next day, I even took it further. I'm 30. I found out I was nothing more than a walking retirement plan on a Thursday afternoon. Funny how life-shattering moments happen on the most ordinary days. I wasn't looking for trouble, just helping my dad scan some financial documents at their house, something I'd done 100 times before. My fingers moved across the keyboard, the familiar click of the scanner providing a rhythm to my work. Then I saw it, a folder labeled Last Will and Testament. Curiosity got the better of me. I peeked inside, my stomach dropped, the room tilted. Everything, the house, the savings, the assets, was going to my brother Tyler. The golden child, the one who could do no wrong, the only mention of me? A single generic line about loving both sons equally. Years of sacrifices, thousands of dollars spent helping them out of tight spots, and in the end, they had planned for a future where I didn't exist. My hands trembled, blood rushed to my ears. I carefully placed the document back exactly as I'd found it. Dad called from the kitchen, asking if I wanted coffee. I managed to say yes. My voice sounded strange, hollow. How do you sit across from people who just erased you? I'd always been the responsible one. The guy who paid the bills, fixed things, made sure my parents, Linda and George, were taken care of. Meanwhile, Tyler coasted through life. Jobless at 31, still being bobbied by our parents, laid out of debt. Check. When Tyler racked up $20,000 in credit card debt from finding himself in Europe, they emptied their savings to cover it. Meanwhile, I worked 2 jobs to pay for college. Crashed his car. They bought him a new one. Not just any car, a BMW that cost more than my annual salary. When I got my first car at 16, it was a 15-year-old Honda that I paid for myself by working weekends. Couldn't hold a job, not his fault. The bosses were unreasonable, the work was beneath him. His creative spirit couldn't be contained by a 9-to-5, so they subsidized his apartment while he pursued his passions, which mostly meant playing video games and dating a new girl every month. I never expected gratitude, but I also never expected this complete erasure. My relationship with my parents was transactional. They never outright asked for money, no, that would require acknowledging they needed me. Instead, they just expected me to handle things. Expected me to be an adult while they coddled my 31-year-old brother like he was still in high school. Mom would drop hints about the mortgage being tight this month. Dad would mention the property taxes coming due with a significant look in my direction. They'd marvel at how successful I'd become, how lucky they were to have such a responsible son. But that same responsibility they praised was really just a tool they used. When I earned a promotion, their first question was never, "Are you proud of yourself?" but "Does this mean a bigger paycheck?" When I bought a new car, a sensible sedan that I'd saved for, Dad asked if I was still able to help with their roof repairs. All while Tyler remained the favorite, the cherished one, the heir to everything they had. I drove home in a daze, the roads blurred together, my knuckles white against the steering wheel. At first, I wanted to rage, to scream, to call them out. But then I thought, why give them the satisfaction? Instead, I played it cool. I didn't bring up the will. But the next day, I quietly canceled every automatic payment. The mortgage I helped with, gone. The utilities I paid, turned off. The credit card I co-signed for them, shut down. Then I waited. 2 weeks later, the first text arrived. "Hey, bud, the property taxes are due." Not even a "how are you?" Not a fake apology, straight to the money. I typed back that Tyler should handle it since the house would be his anyway. My finger hovered over the send button. My heart thumped against my ribs. I took a deep breath and pressed it. That's when the panic set in. Mom called instantly. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was predictably dramatic. "Please don't be like this. We need to talk." Oh, now they wanted to talk? Now that they couldn't pay their own damn bills. I waited an hour before replying with a text saying there was nothing to talk about. They'd made their choice, and now they could live with it. Radio silence. Until Tyler chimed in. "Dude, why are you being such a drama queen? It's not a big deal, just help them out like you always do." I laughed, a bitter sound in my empty apartment. "Not a big deal? You mean the money you're inheriting? Why don't you use it?" His response was immediate. You know I don't have that kind of cash right now. Oh, now money was a problem. I fired back. Guess you better figure it out then, little bro. The cascade of calls began. Mom, Dad, Tyler, even my aunt recruited into their crusade. I blocked them all. I could have left it there, could have just walked away. But no, that wasn't enough. I wanted them to feel it, to understand what it was like to be used, so I got creative. First, the house insurance. I'd been handling their homeowner's insurance for years. Since I was on the policy, I downgraded it to the bare minimum. 2 weeks later, a pipe burst in their bathroom, cost them thousands in repairs. I sipped my coffee and scrolled through my dad's panicked texts. Next, the car. I had co-signed on Tyler's car when his credit was shot from unpaid credit cards. I quietly refinanced it in Tyler's name alone at triple the interest rate. Guess who suddenly had car payments he couldn't afford? That's right, Tyler. His Instagram posts about hard times and anyone hearing gave me a satisfaction I wasn't proud of, but I didn't stop there. The final blow, the HOA complaint. My parents had no idea their neighborhood had strict HOA rules. They'd never bothered to read the fine print, so I anonymously reported them for every violation in the book. The lawn, too high, the fence, not up to code, the paint, slightly faded. Within a month, they were hit with over $5,000 in fines, and me, I slept like a baby. My coworker Sarah noticed the change in me during lunch one day. She commented that I seemed different, lighter somehow. I shrugged. Just unburdened. She didn't know the whole story. No one did. But she was right, I did feel lighter. Like I'd shed years of expectations and obligation. It was 3 months before they showed up at my apartment. Mom, Dad, Tyler standing outside begging. I opened the door, leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Ryan, please, we need help, Mom said, her mascara smudged from crying. No, you need to leave, Mom gasped. You're really going to let us lose everything over this? I smirked. Oh, you mean everything you left to Tyler? Yeah, he's got it covered. Tyler, desperate, finally snapped. Dude, you're being an asshole. You always helped before. Why are you acting like this now? I tilted my head. Because before I thought I was part of this family, turns out I was just your piggy bank, and now I'm closed for business. Silence fell between us, heavy and thick. Then Dad spoke, angry, condescending. We raised you, we fed you, we gave you everything. I let out a sharp laugh. Oh, you mean the bare minimum, the thing literally every parent is legally required to do? Yeah, thanks for that. Then I slammed the door in their faces. Their muffled voices continued outside. Pleading, angry, confused, I poured myself a whiskey, neat. 2 fingers, I didn't feel guilty, not one bit. I had been used my entire life. And now they were finally feeling what it was like to be discarded. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. But freedom, I was learning, can be lonely. I threw myself into work, earned a promotion, started dadding again, Sarah, from accounting. We had dinner every Thursday. It was nice, normal. Sarah asked about my holiday plans one night as we lay in bed. My heart skipped at the mention of family gatherings. I told her I wouldn't be seeing my family. She asked why not. I didn't want to tell her, but the words spilled out anyway. The will, the betrayal, my revenge. Sarah listened. Her brown eyes widened, but she didn't interrupt. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. That's intense, she finally said, but I don't think you're as okay with it as you claim to be. I pulled away, defensive. What's that supposed to mean? She sat up, wrapped the sheet around herself. She pointed out how I checked their social media every day, how I drove by their house when we were in that part of town. I was still invested. My face heated. I denied it, but she was right. I was still obsessed, still looking for signs that they were suffering. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd cut them off to be free, but I wasn't free. I was still tethered to them through my anger. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind raced. What was I doing? What was the end game here? I wanted them to feel pain, to understand what they'd done. But at what cost? The next morning I called my therapist, made an emergency appointment. She listened as I explained everything. The will, the revenge, the emptiness that followed. She nodded thoughtfully. You're carrying a lot. It's not just about the will. It's about years of feeling unvalued. I nodded, throat tight. The question is, what do you want now, to punish them forever or to heal yourself? I didn't have an answer. That weekend, I drove to my parents' house, parked across the street, just sat there. The yard was overgrown, the paint peeling, evidence of my revenge in plain sight. A curtain moved. Mom's face appeared in the window. Our eyes met. She disappeared. A moment later, the front door opened. My hands gripped the steering wheel, fight or flight instinct kicking in, but I didn't drive away. I got out of the car. Mom looked smaller somehow, her shoulders hunched. Her hair, usually perfectly styled, hung limp around her face. She spoke first, her voice barely audible over the rustle of dead leaves. She told me they'd lost the house. The bank was giving them until Christmas to move out. I felt a flicker of satisfaction, then guilt. She continued. Tyler had moved in with his girlfriend and was working at the hardware store now. I raised an eyebrow, surprised at the mention of Tyler working. A ghost of a smile crossed her face as she acknowledged how amazing that was. Silence stretched between us. "Why did you do it?" I finally asked, the question that had burned in me for months. The will, why leave everything to him? Her face crumpled. "Oh, Ryan, we thought you had everything figured out. You've always been so capable, so strong. We thought Tyler needed it more." A bitter laugh escaped me. So I was punished for being responsible. She shook her head, saying they didn't see it that way. Of course they didn't. More silence. She told me Dad was inside, that he missed me though he wouldn't admit it. I doubted that, but I was here, might as well see this through. The house smelled the same. The furniture was rearranged, probably sold some pieces to make ends meet. Dad sat in his recliner, thinner than I remembered, grayer. He looked up as I entered. His eyes widened. He said my name, his voice rough with emotion. I nodded in acknowledgement. He asked if I was there to gloat, but there was no heat in his words, just resignation. I shook my head. When he asked why I had come, I could only shrug. I honestly didn't know. He nodded like that made perfect sense. Then he apologized about the will, about everything. It wasn't enough, not nearly enough to erase years of feeling second best, but it was something. I sat on the couch, we talked, really talked, for the first time in maybe ever. They'd changed the will, he told me. Not that it mattered much now, there wasn't much left to inherit. Tyler was changing too, they said, working steadily, paying his own bills. Sometimes rock bottom is what people need. I didn't move back in, didn't start paying their bills again, didn't pretend everything was fixed. But I did help them find an affordable apartment, did help them sell what they could to cover moving costs. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, maybe not ever completely, but it was a step towards something else, something that wasn't purely transactional. Sarah was surprised when I told her. She said she'd have let them rot, but I wasn't better than her, just tired of letting anger drive me. That Christmas, I didn't go to their new apartment, but I did send a card, a simple one. Inside, I wrote a brief note saying I was still figuring things out, but I was trying. My phone buzzed with a text on Christmas morning. Mom and Dad responded that they were trying too. Not a request for money, not a guilt trip, just an acknowledgement. It was a start. They say living well is the best revenge. I'm not sure about that. But I do know that breaking free from toxic patterns feels better than any revenge I'd planned. I'm still working on forgiveness, still establishing boundaries, still learning what family means to me now. But I'm no longer just a walking retirement plan. I'm Ryan, and I get to decide what that means. The new year brought unexpected changes. Tyler called me out of the blue, asked if we could meet for coffee. I was suspicious but curious enough to agree. He looked different. The perpetual smugness disappeared from his face. He'd cut his hair, wore a clean button-down shirt, even arrived on time. He thanked me for meeting him, fidgeted with his coffee cup, cleared his throat multiple times before speaking. Then he apologized for everything, for taking advantage, for never stepping up, for letting me shoulder all the responsibility. I watched him, searching for signs of insincerity. Found none. He explained how losing the financial safety net had forced him to grow up, how working an actual job had given him a new perspective, how he'd realized just how much I'd been doing all these years. "Do you remember when I crashed my car in college?" he asked, staring into his coffee. "And they bought me that BMW?" I nodded. How could I forget? You know what Mom said when she gave me the keys? She said, "We have to take care of you because Ryan is already so good at taking care of himself." The words hung between us, the clearest distillation of our family's dysfunction I'd ever heard. "They ruined me," he continued, his voice cracking. "Made me believe I was entitled to everything without earning anything, and they punished you for being capable." I listened, didn't interrupt, didn't forgive right away, but I did agree to meet again, to try to rebuild something new, something based on mutual respect rather than obligation. My parents' new apartment was small, cramped, nothing like the spacious house they'd lost, but when I finally visited in February, I noticed something. They seemed lighter. Mom had started painting again, a hobby she'd abandoned years ago. Dad had joined a book club at the local library. They'd found joy in simplicity, in living within their means. They didn't ask me for money, not once. Sarah and I grew closer. She moved in with me in March. "You seem at peace," she said one evening as we sat on the balcony watching the sunset. I considered her words. "Not peace, not yet, but I'm getting there." She took my hand, squeezed it. "Your family situation taught you something valuable," she said. "You learned how to value yourself." I nodded. She was right. It had taken a betrayal to show me my worth, to make me understand that I deserved more than being someone's safety net. My anger had cooled. The need for revenge had faded. In its place was something unexpected: growth, self-respect, the knowledge that I could walk away from toxic situations and that I deserved better. My relationship with my parents and Tyler remains complicated. We're building something new from the ashes of what was destroyed. It's fragile, imperfect, but it's honest in a way our previous relationship never was. I haven't forgotten what they did. The will, the years of taking me for granted, the blatant favoritism. Sarah and I are talking about marriage, about building our own family, one based on love and respect rather than obligation and guilt. The irony isn't lost on me. I had to lose my family to find myself, had to watch them hit rock bottom to build something real. But that's life, isn't it? Sometimes the most painful lessons are the most valuable. Sometimes you have to break something completely to rebuild it better. And sometimes, just sometimes, what rises from the ashes is stronger than what was there before. The last time I saw my parents' old house, it had new owners, a young couple with a toddler and a dog. They'd repainted it blue, planted flowers in the front yard. I felt nothing looking at it. No nostalgia, no anger, just nothing. That's progress, I think. Tyler's changed in ways I never would have imagined. He works full-time now, pays his own bills, has even started taking night classes at the community college. Last week, he asked me for advice about investments, not money advice. We sat at my kitchen table, spreadsheets between us, and for the first time in our lives, we were just brothers. No competition, no resentment, just two people trying to figure things out. "I never thought I'd say this," he told me, "but I'm glad things happened the way they did. I needed to grow up." I didn't tell him I was glad too. That would have been a lie. I wish things had been different. Wish my parents had valued me enough to include me in their legacy. But I am grateful for what came after, for the person I became when I stopped letting myself be used. My therapist says that's the difference between acceptance and approval. I can accept what happened without approving of it. I'm working on that. To everyone who's been used, who's been taken for granted, your worth isn't measured by what you provide. Sometimes walking away is the only way to make that clear, both to them and to yourself. If I had known then what I know now, I would have set those boundaries years ago. But I'm setting them now, and that has to be enough. I still help my parents occasionally, but now it's on my terms, when I want to, because I choose to, not because they expect it.